Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I am here to show you Shiftry-GX. Now, don't stop the video, that'd make me sad, because I know we've already looked at Shiftry-GX. And I said it was an alright Pokemon with decent potential, albeit at stage 2, which is a little bit of a pain. But I've been chatting to my lovely friend, the lovely Antoine Boulet, over in Japan, and he's been telling me some things. And to be perfectly blunt with you, ladies and gentlemen, Shiftry is looking an awful lot better in Japan than it is over here in the UK, US, Europe, etc. I find this incredibly interesting, and I think you guys might too. Now, two important things to note before we really get into looking at Shiftry here. Number one, Japan is playing X and Y on. And I get a lot of messages from people saying that this makes a huge difference, and most of the time it doesn't. The best decks in Japan were Buzzwole and Zoroark. This was before Sun and Moon 6 came out. And the best decks here before Sun and Moon 6 were Buzzwole and Zoroark. Then when Sun and Moon 6 came out, it turned to Malamar decks and Buzzwole decks. And over here, when Sun and Moon 6 came out, it turned into Buzzwole decks and Malamar decks. So the main best decks in the format tend to be the same, regardless of whether you're playing X and Y on like Japan is, or Breakthrough on like we are. But every so often, you get a few little things that really make a huge difference. Shiftry is one of those. Now, there is another huge difference, and it is a huge difference in Japan. Forest of Giant Plants isn't banned. Now, to be fair, Japan do play standard and expanded, and their expanded is black and white, onwards, and their standard is X and Y, whereas our standard is Breakthrough, but our expanded is still X and Y. And Japan are allowed to use Forest of Giant Plants in their standard format. Now, as a side note, this pretty much entirely confirms that the only real problem for Forest of Giant Plants was Shiftry. This was a Shiftry where when you evolve it up, you flip a coin, if heads, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon, they shuffle it and all cards attached to it back into their deck. Because ladies and gentlemen, if this wasn't the big problem, how come we're allowed to use Forest of Giant Plants in a format where we don't have this? Forest of Giant Plants lets your grass Pokemon evolve up immediately. Kind of like the old Broken Time Space did for all Pokemon. The big difference is, although this is a Darkness Pokemon, it evolves from a grass Pokemon, which means it's totally in for Forest of Giant Plants. So it means that in Japan, you've got Forest of Giant Plants, which means that this Shiftry can evolve up very, very nicely and very, very quickly. That makes it instantly better. Now, with those two preliminary things out the way, let's remind ourselves of exactly what Shiftry does. I'll pop a link to my main Shiftry video in the description so you can get all the details there, but it would be rude if I didn't give you a quick primer in this particular video. So, first of all, 240 HP, very high, stage 2 problem, except Forest of Giant Plants solves that. 1 grass energy, 40 damage plus confusion, it's fine. Let's face it, Espeon can do 30 damage plus confusion turn 1, and we like it. This can do 40 damage plus confusion turn 1, so we presumably like it a little bit more. Not to mention that you're hitting weakness on Lycanroc, which is pretty big right now, and Lapras, which as I told you in a recent video, is really making a comeback, or at least should be. Then Grass Double Colorless, Pandemonium GX, our translations of course here come from the lovely David Hockman over at limitlesstcg.com/translations, and you get to shuffle one of your opponent's Pokemon in play and all cards attached to it into their deck. I do enjoy how this is basically like the old banned Shiftry's ability, which is really quite funky. Does make me wonder why they didn't just ban Shiftry, because a lot of people suggested, well, maybe Decidueye is a big problem for Forest of Giant Plants, but it's legal with Forest of Giant Plants in Japan, and it's really not that much of a problem. But the main attack we like here, Extra Sensory. Grass Double Colorless, 90 damage. But if you've got the same number of cards in hand as your opponent, then it does an extra 90 damage. It does 180 for free energy. Now you add a choice band on there and you're going up to 210, and that's up to getting stuff like Zoroark, for instance. And remember, in Japan they're playing X and Y on, so Sky feels legal, Zoroark's a lot better, just like it is and expanded over here. But it also gets your Buzzwole, your Ultra Necrozma, etc. And actually, what's really nice, as we saw, Japan at the moment is being overrun by Rayquaza, which is actually only got 180 HP, which means you don't even need a choice band, you're just hitting 180 and getting a KO, while forcing Rayquaza to have 8 energy on the field. Now, it's still a bit of a pain, you got to have 2 energy attachments here. Good news, you can use double colorless energy. Bad news, you've got Dark Patch for darkness Pokemon in Expanded, and you've got Aqua Patch for water Pokemon, and you've got Max Elixir for basic Pokemon. But we don't have anything for grass Pokemon. Now, admittedly, you can use Max Elixir before you evolve up with Forest of Giant Plants, but then you're just getting into super awkward territory, and I'm not sure I can wholeheartedly endorse this. So the 2 energy is still a bit of a pain. But 180 on a Stage 2 Pokemon, essentially turn 2, that sounds pretty good to me. Now, the big problem here is that you've got to have the same number of cards in hand as your opponent, and you can use Judge, and you can use Copycat, which has been re-released in Champion Road in Japan and will be out by the time we get Shiftry. It's coming out in the same set over here, Celestial Storm. Okay, so we've got ways to match our opponent's hand size. The problem is, if you play someone like a Judge or a Copycat, you then can't play any other cards or you won't have the same number of cards, and that will be a pain. Well, you know how I said Japan's playing X and Y on? There is one huge card that Japan has for Shiftry that we don't have for Shiftry. It's Shiftry. Specifically, the Shiftry from Flashfire. Anyone remember what it does? The ability Leaf Draw says once during your turn before you attack, you may discard a grass energy and draw 3 cards. That's right. It's like Zoroark, but you've got to discard a grass energy, and it allows you to draw 3 cards rather than 2. Okay, that sounds like fun. And that's how you work it here. Either you use Shiftry to draw a bunch of cards and then play something like a Judge, or you play a Judge knowing that you can always draw extra cards to rejig your hand to then match hand size afterwards. That's why this is so good. When you combine the fact that you've got Forest of Giant Plants with the fact that you've got Shiftry that gives you draw power, now we're rocking and rolling. Now we can have this turn 1. Now we've got a big attack that can KO most of the most relevant Pokemon in the format. I mean, yeah, if a Rogue Gardevoir comes around, that's going to be a bit of a problem because you're not one-hit KOing, but you've got free energy on you, meaning they've got a free 90 damage. I get it. Although, having said that, a Gardevoir couldn't do this in one turn, because even with a double colorless energy, 1 energy, and a choice band, Gardevoir would still only be hitting 210 if you've got free energy on. So they would need 2 Secret Springs in order to get the KO here. The only real barrier to greatness here is the fact that it takes 2 energy, and at the end of the day, it is still a Stage 2. It might still be a little bit slow. When Shiftry releases over here, I expect it to see a little bit of play in some rogue decks, using stuff like Rare Candy, because it is a powerful Pokemon, and 1 energy, 40 damage plus Confusion is good. But over in Japan, where you've got Forest of Giant Plants, and you've got Shiftry, which provides you a draw engine, meaning that as soon as you get your first Shiftry, which of course will be a Flashfire one, it's then infinitely easier to get all of your subsequent Shiftrys out. We're looking at a much, much better Pokemon. I really wish we had a grass equivalent of Aqua Patch, because then you could discard it with the grass Shiftry, the energy I'm talking about, then reattach it with your grass patch or leaf patch or whatever it might be called, and you would really have the makings of a great deck. Over here, we don't have Forest of Giant Plants. In Expanded, we do have the other Shiftry, which is quite nice. But there's a lot of potential, and I thought this was a fun topic to have a chat about because it's not often that cards are good in Japan but not good over here. I know we're playing different formats, but Boswell's great in Japan, Zoroark was great in Japan. I mean, when Zoroark first came out, I told you how it was going to be great over here. And predictably, I got a lot of responses from people going, Ross, Japan play a different format. Skyfield is legal in Japan. Zoroark is not going to be that good over here. And I really did get dozens of messages from people telling me that Zoroark is not going to be good in the standard format over here because we don't have Skyfield, and just because it's good in Japan doesn't mean it's going to be good over here. And I think we all know how that turned out. It was the best deck in the format for ages, although now that Boswell's got B-String, it really has overtaken it. It won many tournaments, including international championships. But I think Shiftry really is the exception to this rule. I think if a card's good in Japan, 95% of the time it's going to be good over here. But Forest of Giant Plants and the other Shiftry really are what make this viable. It's what gives it the speed to be a good deck. And we don't have those cards. So, sorry, but make your way over to Japan, play some tournaments with it. It looks like a really fun deck. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys. Tell me what you think about this Shiftry. Are you going to play it over here? Do you think it really is going to be that much better in Japan? Or do you think it's still going to be a bit slow as a Stage 2? Go nuts! Be nice! Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where that is very much the thing that you can do. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.